Mr. Ulyukayev, during your presentation, you mentioned that in the beginning of the year, inflation risks are going to rise. Where do you see the risks coming from, and what is the central bank going to do to respond and bring down inflation from this year's level?
Let us divide this point into two positions. First, the supply side shock. Dependent on the food prices, mostly on domestic food prices, but partly on global food prices. So I do not think that the central bank would react on that for its policy rate and for other instruments. This is a temporary, it's local mostly factor, and we will still monitoring the situation. The other one is the demand side shock, influenced by some increase of monetary indexes. That is the responsibility of the monetary agency of the central bank. And as soon as we have seen some evidences of growing of this factor, we now thinking about our possible reactions. So possible reaction could be generally in three lines. First, the policy rate. Second, the reserve requirement to banks. And third, the exchange rate performance. So we will watch the situation and making our decision in accordance with the performance of the macroeconomy.
During the previous rate decision, the central bank omitted the phrase that interest rates are going to be steady in coming months. What does that mean? How likely are you to act on rates in the first quarter?
This is an important point. We changed our language. We didn't change the rate, but changed the language. It means that we now feel this risk of monetary side influence in inflation. We are not sure that this risk is too much, too high. It means that we feel free ourselves to change policy in case, if necessary. But now we do not have any practical solution to that.
So is it as likely that rates are going to?
I cannot say in these terms likely or not likely. Mm-hmm. But generally, it's possible, and we still think about it.
Okay. Are you concerned that central bank's interventions are sucking out ruble liquidity from the market?
Not really, because our banks collected too much free reserves of liquidity. I mean, in deposit in central bank and in our short-term bonds. And say 3 months ago, the amount was around 2 trillion rubles. After that, we sterilized, say, around 400 billion rubles for our interventions in the market by selling currency to the banks. So the amount of the free liquidity, of course, decreased, but it's still a big figure. So now we are not very much concerned. But if the situation will continue to be like that, we probably will be more concerned.
About the interventions, you mentioned during your presentation that the goal is to reduce the interventions. To what level do you see the amount of money deployed falling, and what is the sort of time frame for withdrawal?
We will not make any radical steps in this direction. We will do it step by step. I said that even now the result is not bad. I mean, before the amount of our intervention monthly was $10 to $15 billion as a common. Now it's one-digit figure. It's $3, $4, $5 like that $1 billion a month. it's more or less acceptable now. In the future, we believe that this amount will be going down more, but I cannot say any precise figures about that.
In Russia, actually, there are outflows, capital outflows, as opposed to the other BRIC countries, which see increased inflows recently. What do you think the reason is for that?
This is mostly the situation with the loans and credits. Because when it comes to the stock market figures, we see that Russian performance is not bad. It's better than in China, Brazil, and closer to India performance. But in the fourth quarter of the year, that is the time then a lot of companies have to fulfill their obligations to their creditors, and for that reasons they accumulate assets nominated in currencies. For me, this is the main reason for this statistically fixed capital outflow.
And in that light, where do you see the ruble at the end of this year and at the end of next year?
Okay, our policy not to make any statements about the exchange rate of the ruble.
Mm-hmm. And what changes do you envisage next year and the year after as part of the central bank's goal of eventually making the ruble a free-floating currency?
We will continue to move to more flexibility of exchange rate through steps like widening the operation corridor where we buy and sell rubles against currencies. This is the first. And the second, we can change the amount of currency which we, when we buy or sell this amount, we move the boundaries of this corridor. I think that this mostly two main our tools to reach more flexibility.
Mm-hmm. And where do you see the corridor widen?
No comment.
Mm-hmm. About the yuan, the yuan is going to be traded in Russian exchanges actually as of this month.
Yeah.
So there's very little detail available on how that's going to happen. Could you give us more insight?
I'm afraid I'm not the right man to make details. It will be on the exchange MISACs, the same, namely procedures like when we trade in the other currencies. I mean, will be some pool of bank agents which will be allowed to participate in these operations. Approximately the same procedures like in dollar and euro trading.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.